Sorry. All right, so you get a little sense. Well, after I'm just going to read a little passage here from Acts chapter 10, because where you just saw him walking around that city there, obviously in from the Hippodrome there were residences, barracks, all these kind of things, the places where the people lived. Those things have really not been preserved, or they're still being uncovered. But this is the place where Peter comes to that realization that, you know, this gospel message is for everyone. It says in Acts 10:34, "Then Peter began to speak, I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism, but accepts men from every nation who fear him and do what is right." So, and that happened in Caesarea Philippi. So, now up the road from Caesarea Maritima, we go back 865 years or so, or maybe even more, to Mount Carmel. And Mount Carmel, of course, is the location where Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal in the sacrifice contest there. And Mount Carmel is not a place where we have a lot of sites in and of itself, because on top of Mount Carmel they have built this monastery, and the monastery kind of takes up the entire top, but you do get a sense of what it must have been like for them to be having this contest between the prophets on the top of this mountain, because you can see the view from the top of Mount Carmel. And then, you know, you're looking down. I want to show you a few things here. You're looking down on the Jezreel Valley. In Israel basically has two major, there's a lot of different names for valleys, but you can reduce it to two major valleys. There's the Jezreel Valley that goes, in this situation, west to east from Mount Carmel towards the Jordan River. Then there's the Jordan Valley, where the Jordan River is, and that goes north to south. This is the Jezreel Valley. I think I might have a slide that notates the mountains. Yeah. So if you're looking down at the Jezreel Valley, you have to the northern side, which is to the left, you have Nazareth here. See this little bump? That's Mount Tabor. Then you have Mount Moriah here, Mount Gilboa, and all of this is the Jezreel Valley. This road here is the main road that connects all of Europe, Africa, and this whole region together. This main road called the Via Maris comes down, and it turns out that because of this geography, this Jezreel Valley is the place where most of the major battles in the Bible and in post-Bible times have taken place. Okay, so Mount Carmel looks down on that, and it's a pretty spectacular sight as we are able to be there. This is the place where Jezebel encouraged the prophets of Baal to stand up to the contest against Elijah. And of course, you remember the story. Elijah says to the people, "How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. If Baal is God, follow him." And they had that great contest. And it turns out that even after dumping the water on the altars and everything else, God causes flames to come down from heaven and catch up the sacrifice. And the contest was who can get their sacrifice burned up without lighting a match, and it was Elijah who was able to win that sacrifice, and he was victorious. So we go to Mount Carmel to remember that, but also to kind of get our bearings. You can, if you're going to look west from Mount Carmel, you can see the Mediterranean Sea. Here you're looking, in this particular view, you're looking kind of northeast, a little bit in orientation. But right next to, or not right next to, but very near Mount Carmel is our next location, and that is Megiddo. That's Megiddo from the air. Megiddo is mentioned many times in the scripture. In Judges 1 it says, "But Manasseh did not drive out the people of Bethshan or Tanakh or Dor or Iblam or Megiddo and their surrounding settlements, for the Canaanites were determined to live in the land." Megiddo is a strategic location because it is in that Jezreel Valley, right next to that road that I described a moment ago. And so Megiddo is what we call a tell. A tell is the archaeological word that they used for a hill that is not natural, a hill that is man-made. Okay, there's two words that you'll hear that refer to hill in Hebrew. There's har, and then there's tell. Tell is the more archaeological word. And the reason tells exist, and you can imagine as you drive around Israel, you can imagine that they're all over the place because you see all these little bumps. And the reason tells exist is because one civilization will build their city, that civilization will thrive and grow, then something will happen. Maybe a war, maybe a famine, a drought, something, and that civilization will abandon that city. Soon the city will be in rack and ruin, will be fallen down. Another group of people will come in and they'll say, "Hey, this is almost done city here. Why don't we just kind of live here?" Or they'll knock it all down and they'll rebuild it in the style that they want, and then that lifts that place up a little bit. And then that same happens again, and then the next civilization, and the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. And so you have in these ancient locations these mounds that were the place where civilization after civilization built their cities out of the material from the last civilization, lived and just raised up the level. Okay? Can anybody think about why they would do that? Why would a civilization say, "Oh, I was going to live where these guys used to live"? Water. Water is the reason. Who said that? Yes, exactly. It is water. Because the whole thing around here is, where's their water? And so the city was there for a reason in the first place, and it was usually water. Another reason would be defensibility. So Megiddo is a tell. We have civilization after civilization after civilization. There are 30 civilizations in the tell of Megiddo. So it's amazing. And so, we're going way back in pre-Israelite, early Canaanite time in this location. And it's located there because the water source is there. We'll see that in a minute. And also because location to this valley and this road. So transportation and trade and all that kind of thing could take place easily here. Let me see. I have another picture here. So this is a picture of the gate. Again, we're looking at one civilization's worth of this, okay? This is the picture of the gate in Megiddo. And the gate structure in ancient cities is very, very important. We usually don't understand the gate structures of ancient cities until we go there or really study. Here's a reproduction of the gate structure of Megiddo. So when you see the gate in ancient times, you're not talking about a door. You're talking about a complex. So here is where the common people would enter, and here is as far as the common people would get. Okay? The whole point of these cities that we visit today in their ancient ruins is what we're visiting is the Acropolis. That's the stuff that actually remained. Okay? And you had to go through this gate, do business in this structure. They had soldier barracks here. They had judges here. This is where they had commerce and so forth. The whole point of the gate complex, and we see that in Megiddo, but we see it really well still preserved in Tel Dan, is that the commoners could not get near the gate. That's the whole point. Do all the business out here, but don't let them in here. And so that's what's here in Megiddo. And that's the part of the complex here. I have a video I'll show you of the rest of the complex here in Megiddo. As you go inside, In Megiddo, the excavation is wide. Now, what we learn in archaeology is that there's two different approaches to archaeological digs. This approach used the shaft approach and then went wide because they were well funded. A lot of the archaeological digs that are on tells particularly will dig just a shaft, and that shaft will tell them the various civilizations, but they're not disturbing those areas, okay? And so if they think they want to go study something, they'll go this way out of the shaft. But a big broad dig like this, you have disturbed, if you have 30 civilizations, you've disturbed quite a bit by the time you get down there, and you're not going to be able to reclaim a lot of that stuff. So there's various, points of view in terms of how they should do this, but this is what we call a broad dig, and so it's opened up a lot for us to look at, which is on the good side. You're looking at an altar there, early Canaanite altar from one of the civilizations. You can see how far down they dug to find that. And let's see, this is a shot of Megiddo from the top, looking down. That whole structure on the right-hand side there is a grain storage unit, and they had an extensive, all around this would have been farmland and wooden houses and stuff, but they had an extensive communal grain storage unit where they would bring in the grain, put it all together, and then the whole city could use it when needed. Here we're looking over some of the better preserved, probably shops in Megiddo, shops or maybe houses, or it could be political type buildings, looking out into the Jezreel Valley. And here, once again, looking out into the Jezreel Valley. One of the things that's most significant that happens right in front, probably right around where we're looking, is in 2 Kings 23 through 29, the story of King Josiah. If you remember, good King Josiah was leading reforms in the children of Israel, and there came a point that the Assyrian kingdom was starting to fail. The Babylonians were on the ascendancy. We call them the Neo-Babylonians at this point. And Pharaoh Necho from Egypt wanted to come up and defend Assyria against the Babylonians. Okay? To do that, since the road that connects Africa and the lands up in, above Syria, those kind of places, to do that, he had to come through Israel. He had to come up the Jezreel Valley and the Via Maris and then the Jezreel Valley, and Josiah refused him passage. And this is the site where King Josiah led his armies against Pharaoh Necho, and against the advice of the prophet, he still went to war against the Egyptians, and he was killed. So good King Josiah was killed in this battle. That's the end of really a very promising reign. And to add insult to injury, Pharaoh Necho goes up and tries to defend the Assyrians and still gets beaten, and so has to come back through this whole area in their retreat. But all of that happens here in the Jezreel Valley, right in front of Megiddo. And of course, Megiddo is called by another name, and that is, you can kind of hear it, right? It's Megiddo. And so this, you're looking at what we in the English-speaking world call Armageddon. Okay, because the Jewish word for hill is har. So in coming into English, we've kind of messed it up. And so we say it Armageddon. The Jews would say Har Megiddo, right by the hill of Megiddo. That's where the last battle will be fought. So it's a pretty interesting place. We have one more video I want to show you that illuminates this place. So let's go.